Good evening from the State of Kuwait. Welcome to the 7 o'clock news for Saturday, the 22nd of November 2014. I am Dalia Badran with the headlines for tonight. Bahraini eligible voters head to polling stations to elect nominees in the parliamentary elections. U.S. Vice President is to meet Turkey's president, aiming to push for a bigger Turkish role in the fight against the IS militants. Talks on Iran's nuclear program enter their final weekend as no sign yet of a breakthrough as Monday's deadline looms. And U.S. troops in Afghanistan will have a broader role than initially planned next year as their combat mission draws to a close. Hello and welcome. Kuwait's embassy in London reassured the safety of Kuwaiti citizens in the British capital following the gas explosion that took place in one of the major hotels downtown. The embassy noted in a brief statement that all hotel guests are safe and sound as they were all moved from the Regency Hotel to the other hotels after an explosion left 14 from the staff injured. The statement then said British police opened an investigation to find out the reasons that led to the incident, which caused substantial damages to the building and to the evacuation of 500 hotel guests. The 11th Kuwait Conference and Gulf Nursing Symposium was recently inaugurated with huge participation of Kuwaiti and GCC specialists in the field. The symposium extended for 3 days and included many specialized workshops in addition to a seminar discussing the dangers of the non-communicable diseases and different ways to tackle such problems. More details in the following report by Hiba Abdurrahman.
Under the title Nursing Community Leadership in Fighting the Non-Communicable Diseases and under the patronage of His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jabr Subah, the 11th Kuwait Conference and Gulf Nursing Symposium was inaugurated by Minister of Health Dr. Ali Al Ubaidi.
I'm very glad today to attend the nursing conference, which I think it is one of the conferences which is very important for the Ministry of Health, since this conferences will add value to the nursing in the world by increasing the motivations for this nursing, which adding to the services of the patients. Plus the title of this conference is to attack the chronic diseases, which we always mention this in our projects. So I believe that this conferences will do a lot of work, and I think will they meet in the workshops and will they increasing by distributing the leaflets and everything that will increase the awareness of the populations and will increase the awareness of the medical staffs about preventing the chronic diseases.
The conference tackled nursing as a tool to face non-communicable diseases, as it was organized by the Nursing Services Department of the Ministry of Health and the Executive Office of the GCC Council of Health Ministers in collaboration with the Regional Office of the World Health Organization for the Eastern Mediterranean. Its main objectives were presentation of scientific research in the field of nursing and to shed light on the scientific studies in addressing chronic non-communicable diseases, as well as establishing a mechanism for cooperation between the GCC countries' institutions to address these challenges.
Well, I am very honored to be here in Kuwait, this beloved country where we really see a very extraordinary efforts through the Minister of Health and the beloved government, that they are really implemented the resolutions, the UN resolution, the regional resolution, as well as the GCC Health Minister Council resolutions regarding combating the NCD, the non-communicable diseases in the region.
The conference also aimed to develop a Gulf strategy on nursing among the GCC countries for non-communicable diseases, as it represents an important issue for public health between the GCC countries in the framework of the obligation to implement the political declaration adopted by the United Nations in September 2011 and the resolutions of the relevant World Health Organization to improve public health and tackle chronic diseases. The three-day conference, which came under the title Nursing Community Leadership in Fighting the Non-Communicable Diseases, is followed by two specialized workshops dedicated to specialists in this field, locally and regionally. From Al Jumeirah Hotel, I am Heba Abdurrahman, reporting for English News.
Thank you, Heba. The Bahraini State Television said many of the 350,000 eligible voters headed to polling stations today to elect nominees for the 40-seat Bahraini parliament. The new parliamentary lineup is the fourth since launch of the modern political life in 2002 and is being held in implementation of the reforms approach spearheaded by the Bahraini king. There are 40 constituencies, each represented by a single nominee. A voter is entitled to vote for only one candidate. A winner is an electoral district must garner 51% of the votes. In absence of such a proportion of votes, a runoff is held a few days later among the candidates who garner the largest number of votes. Simultaneously with the parliamentary elections, the citizens are also casting their ballots in municipal polls. Amid Gaza's unprecedented destruction, officials in the United Nations confirmed that Gazans will be able to reconstruct their homes in the next week. This comes after several delays and agreements between the Palestinian government, Israel, and the United Nations. More with Majd al-Wahidi from Gaza.
Robert Siri, the Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process, announced that thousands of Gazans will be able to access cement and other building materials for the reconstruction of their homes in the next week. Meanwhile, UN Commissioner General said that anger and frustration are mounting in the Gaza Strip due to the slow and ineffective process of reconstruction.
The announcement from Robert Siri, the United Nations Special Coordinator Officer, yesterday regarding the pushing forward the reconstruction plan and the process doesn't solve the problem from the roots. The Palestinians asking to solve this problem by lifting the siege totally and meet the needs and the requirements from the hundreds of families who are still living without any minimum life of living conditions.
More than a month after the end of the Israeli military offensive in Gaza, people are still struggling to recover. In the last few weeks, residents organized several sit-ins in front of UN headquarters to protest against the delay of the reconstruction and ask for the introduction of building materials so they can rebuild their homes and lives. Most of these people are living in poor shelters, schools, or tents that lack life basics.
We are still suffering from the Israeli war. It has ended 3 months ago, but we have not seen any kind of help since then. No cement, no building materials, no food services. We keep hearing promises, but nothing happened on the ground. The winter is coming. We live in the streets with no shelter and no security. My home was completely destroyed during the war. I demand the UN to speed the rebuilding processes. We are dying slowly.
Despite the devastation caused by the Israeli offensive that left more than half of Gaza's population homeless and in difficult conditions, Israel maintains a 7-year-old siege that prevents the vast majority of building supplies to enter and cripples all aspects of Gazans' life. Observers fear that the delay in Gaza's reconstruction could have hidden political agenda and goals. They say such a slowdown and constant delays may reflect the possibility of a new wars, especially in the absence of international guarantees to prevent coming confrontation with Israel. Majd al-Wahidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
Thank you, Majd. Iraq's army has launched an operation to retake parts of Ramadi, a city largely controlled by the IS militants. Today's fighting has focused on eastern suburbs of Ramadi, the capital of Anbar province, located 130 kilometers west of the capital Baghdad. Also today, local officials said that the IS militants killed 25 members of an Iraqi tribe during their assault on a provincial capital west of Baghdad in an apparent revenge for tribal opposition to the radicals. In other developments, U.S. and partner nation military forces conducted 23 airstrikes in Iraq using fighter attack bombers and remotely piloted aircraft against the IS terrorists. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden today met the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, aiming to ease strains over the crisis in Syria and persuade Turkey to step up its support for the coalition. Biden's visit is the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Turkey since Erdogan won election as president after over a decade as prime minister, and came amid unusual tensions in the traditionally strong relationship between the two NATO allies. Washington is frustrated by the relatively limited role played by Turkey in the fight against the IS militants, who have seized swathes of Iraq and Syria right up to the Turkish border. Turkey, in turn, is upset that its contribution in hosting 1.6 million refugees from the Syrian conflict has gone relatively unrecognized, and is wary of supporting the Kurdish fighters battling the IS. EU's Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton was in Geneva today to take part in nuclear talks with Iran. Continuous nuclear talks between world powers and Tehran hit a new snag yesterday after Iran apparently again turned down U.S. demands for concessions. Our reporter Dina Nasser has more on this.
The US and Iran remain divided on how much Tehran needs to constrain programs that could make nuclear weapons. Iran says all its programs are meant for peaceful uses, but is negotiating because a deal would result in sanctions relief. US Secretary of State John Kerry appeared to pull back from nuclear talks in Vienna. The move left Iran's foreign minister to ponder an apparent new proposal from Washington designed to bridge differences standing in the way of a deal with less than 4 days to the deadline. A US statement said Kerry's future travel schedule is still being finalized, and it had not yet been determined when he will return to Vienna. That suggested that he was waiting to see whether there was enough momentum to warrant him rejoining the talks. The statement said Kerry will be consulting with European counterparts while in Paris. Diplomats said French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius and British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond were also leaving the Vienna talks after arriving earlier in the day.
Well, we've had a series of useful discussions. As I said earlier, these are very complex issues, and there's still a very significant gap between the parties. We're all going to go away and have further technical discussions with our experts, and we will resume again over the course of the weekend.
Expectations are growing that the Monday deadline for a full deal will be missed because of differences on how much Iran needs to reduce the size and scope of key nuclear programs. Both the Iranians and the six world powers negotiating with them must soon decide whether to go beyond Monday or adjourn to a later date.
Gunmen from the Somali militant group Al-Shabaab say they have attacked a bus in northern Kenya, killing 28 people. The bus was traveling to the capital Nairobi when it was stopped in Mandera County, not far from the Somali border. Meanwhile, Kenyan police chief said there will be a major security operation following the bus attack in northern Kenya. Tensions have escalated near the border with in the past year, as clashes between clans have displaced hundreds of people. U.S. officials said that U.S. President Obama approved the expansion of the U.S. military's role in Afghanistan next year. Under a classified order signed in recent weeks by the president, U.S. forces will be able to carry out missions against militant groups such as the Taliban that are threatening troops and the Afghan government. They said U.S. jets, drones, and bombers can support Afghan troops on combat missions. The move comes months after Obama pledged that troops would remain in the country with 2 missions: to train Afghan forces and to support counter-terrorism operations against Al-Qaeda. This latest order reveals a foreign policy shift for the Obama administration. The authorization was made at the request of military commanders who want more troops on the ground to fight the Taliban. In eastern Ukraine, pro-Russia rebels were seen firing towards the Ukrainian army, trying to consolidate their positions ahead of winter fighters near the village of Pesky, who were targeting Ukrainian sniper positions on Thursday near Donetsk airport, where Ukrainian troops managed to hold out for months despite an unremitting onslaught of artillery and rocket fire. A nominal ceasefire was agreed between Ukraine, the rebels, Russia, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe in early September, but hostilities have remained ongoing in the Donetsk region. According to the United Nations, over 900 people have been killed in eastern Ukraine since the truce began, and the conflict has claimed at least 4,300 lives since April. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon expects that Ebola outbreak can be ended by the middle of next year if the world speeds up its response. But he warned that although the rate of new cases was slowing in parts of West Africa, like Mali, where 6 people have died, was now of deep concern. In a separate development supporting the medical responses to stop the spread of Ebola that has killed more than 5,100 people, the World Food Programme, the WFP, is focusing on meeting the basic food and nutrition needs of affected families and communities in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. The United Nations Special Envoy on Ebola, David Nabarro, said that women are particularly at risk of contracting the disease. He also emphasized the importance of good nutrition in the fight against Ebola. The WFP has distributed food to 1.5 million people since April in urban and rural areas of the 3 countries. A snowfall that brought huge drifts and closed roads in the Buffalo area of New York State finally ended today as the looming threat of rain and higher temperatures through the weekend and beyond raised the possibility of floods. Weather forecasters have predicted light rain to begin today alongside warmer temperatures. Meanwhile, more than 30 major roof collapsed, most involving farm and flat roof buildings were reported overnight. After Thursday's snow brought the Buffalo area's 3-day total to an epic 7 feet or more, killing 13 people. According to the New York Weather Service, temperatures will include highs of nearly 10 degrees Celsius today and nearly 16 Celsius on Monday. The National Council for Culture, Arts and Letters, the NCCL, Secretary General Ali Al-Yuha inaugurated the artistic exhibition for the young artist Muhammad Rashid Al-Marri. The exhibition was entitled Tell Me Why, as it focuses on the personal experiences that the artist went through and includes an important message that needs to be delivered. Hiba Abdurrahman was there and has this message.
Under the title Tell Me Why, the Ahmed Al Adwani Hall in Abdullah Salim area hosted the second personal exhibition for the young artist Mohammed Rashid Al Mirri.
My name is Mohammed Rashid Al Mirri. I'm 12 years old. This is my second exhibition. It has 15 of works of art. I'm very happy that the hall was full of people today. I hope you enjoyed my works today.
Al Mirri decided to focus on the issues of human rights and confronting the crises that are spreading in the international community. He called through this work of art to help the children worldwide and face their problems by donating the outcome of this exhibition to the needy children under the umbrella of Kuwait Red Crescent Society.
Yes, this is truly a magnificent exhibition of one of the most talented young Kuwaiti artists. I think he has captured well the big problem that we as an international community struggle with, and that is the role of children and the role of women in conflict situations. I think Kuwaitis should be very proud of him and his talents, and also his hard work that he puts into art. We are also very honored as South Africans, because the day that Nelson Mandela passed on, he came to the embassy and presented us with a sketch of Nelson Mandela. That sketch will be exhibited next year in the Nelson Mandela International Museum in South Africa. So we also have a very special bond with him, because he has also recognized Nelson Mandela as one of the great leaders of our time.
We received an invitation from Mohammed to participate in this exhibition, and Mohammed is very kind enough to send the sales of the proceeds of these paintings to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. This is a great achievement. We generally like to encourage the youth to participate in such activities and giving back to the community, whether it was here in Kuwait or to refugees all over the world. Generally, this is great.
The NCCAL, since its establishment, used to encourage the young talents in the country, starting from the year 1976, when it started the free ateliers to pattern the talented children in the country. Also celebrating the International Year for Children in the year 1979 marked the significant breakthrough in the field of the culture of children. The second professional exhibition for the young artist Mohammed Rashid Al Mirri is a proof that encouraging and patronizing such talents is a great investment in the country's future, especially in the artistic arena. From Ahmed Al Adwani Hall in Abdullah Salim area, I am Heba Abdurrahman reporting for English News.
Thank you, Heba. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Before the end, here is a quick reminder of today's headlines. Bahraini eligible voters head to polling stations to elect nominees in the parliamentary elections. U.S. Vice President is to meet Turkey's president, aiming to push for a bigger Turkish role in the fight against the IS militants. Talks on Iran's nuclear program enter their final weekend as no sign yet of a breakthrough as Monday's deadline looms. U.S. troops in Afghanistan will have a broader role than initially planned next year as their combat mission draws to a close.